You've heard about it, outside vendor fees. Let's get to the truth about it. Hi, I'm Jack with Vacationese. First, I'm going to apologize to you. My wife said I am not dressed appropriately for a video. As you can see, I'm not in my office. I am actually in Cabo right now, so I apologize, but I had a conversation with a client a couple minutes ago, and I thought, let me bring this to you as I'm thinking about it. Outside vendor fees, very, very hot topic. So let me talk to you a little bit about what we perceive as the truth. As you know, if you want to bring your own photographer, DJ, decor company, flower company, chef, you name it, the resorts don't want that to happen. So what most resorts do is charge an outside vendor fee. In my mind, there's a couple reasons for this. One is they want to make sure that you're dealing with reputable vendors. So some resorts will have an outside vendor approved list. Other resorts just say no way, no outside vendors. So the thing with this is also the resorts just don't want to lose money. So they charge these fees so that they can make money if you're not choosing their vendors. These fees vary by resort. In some cases, some of the resorts will say if the vendor is a guest for 3 or 4 nights, whatever the minimum on the contract is, then there are no outside vendor fees. So that's pretty easy. Just book them through your travel planner like us or wherever you're working with, list them, and they can be your vendor. Now what happens, it gets a little complicated. Many of the resorts are now saying, we don't really care. If they're an outside vendor that we're not charging you for, whether they're a guest or not, we're going to charge. So we've seen fees in the $500 range to $1,000. And some of these resorts will charge $500 just for your stay. And I recently saw a resort that wants to charge $1,000 per day per vendor. So let me explain to you what I saw in a contract. What it said was, if you are going to bring in an outside vendor, that vendor is being charged, or you're being charged, $1,000 per day for a vendor. In the case of this client I was just talking to, a resort told them that their vendor is going to do photography and video. So that is 2 services. So basically the vendor's going to be there 2 days. They're charging them $1,000 per day. So that's $2,000 for each day for photography and video, or $4,000. Now, if you are going to deal with an outside vendor that is in that destination you're in versus a guest you're bringing or someone you're bringing, you should address this with the vendor up front. Sometimes the outside vendors may have a relationship with the resort already and be able to get that fee waived. Other vendors I've talked to say, look, my prices include an outside vendor fee for certain resorts. So it's something you really have to address. Some resorts are flexible and some are just very rigid. If you look at your event contract with the resorts, many of them will spell it out black and white what the outside vendor fees are. Now, we've seen a couple things and I have ideas on how to get away from the outside vendor fees. So with DJs, as long as the DJ is getting their equipment from the resorts typically will not charge outside vendor fees because they are renting the equipment. Now, with hair and makeup, that's another issue. If you are going to bring someone to do your hair and makeup and they do it in your room, just don't tell the resort that you're bringing them. Book a room, maybe book a big room, you do your hair and makeup there or in your room. We put them as a guest for the 3 nights, and that's that. If you're going to try to bring someone in locally, then you're going to have to pay guest passes, outside vendor fees. So again, the whole idea of bringing an outside vendor, most people do it to save money. Sometimes it's a creative thing that you saw someone's work on Instagram or you've heard of someone and you really want to work with them. It is what it is. So that to me, you just have to understand the reality is there are outside vendor fees at most resorts. Some don't charge it, some do, but we're seeing more and more do it. They're getting very rigid. You can ask them if they'll waive them. We've not been able to get that done in most cases. Sometimes they'll reduce them, but you really need to have that discussion with not us as your travel partner, but with the wedding department specifically, because we typically can do nothing about the outside vendor fees. Again, most of the time, if the guest is part of our room block, we can get it waived, but you need to address that with the planner once you get started working with them and understand what the requirements are for outside vendors. Again, this is Jack with Vacationese, and hopefully that's helped you better understand how to deal with outside vendors, what fees you may incur, and any strategy that either I have or you can come up with. We'd love to hear about it if something's worked for you. Feel free to watch the videos. I post new videos every Tuesday, and typically I'm dressed more appropriately. But here I am at LeBlanc in Cabo still, and thought the background would be a lot better than the background in my office.